button. That's always an exciting moment in any streamer's day when you finally hit the go live button. Let's make sure that we're live in all the appropriate places. First, we're going to check Restream, and I'm live on Restream. Let's go to our friend YouTube. While we check on YouTube, aloha. And it looks like we're live on YouTube as well, and I can see them live on Twitch, completing the trifecta. Aloha, you can call me Craw. I'm a father, Toastmaster, and Lego enthusiast, but tonight we're doing some flight simulator. As a dad, I think it's kind of standard, the idea that I would be into flight simulator. I feel like it's a very on-brand, stereotypical thing to want to do. But I like the idea of flying. I like the idea of doing it. And so one of the things we're doing right now is we're trying to fly around the world. We left where I started, kind of near where I live, which is near Hartford, Connecticut, and I moved my way north, and right now our plane is currently in Fermont, Canada, and we're going to go to Iqaluit, Canada next. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to take off. We're going to fly from point A to point B, and once we're in the air and we're at cruising altitude, we will start reading a book. But before I do so, I realized something. I need to double check to make sure everything works. Let's start by going, what is today's secret phrase? Our secret phrase today, we didn't go live, or we didn't do our go live notification. Usually I'm better about this type of stuff. So like I went live, but I didn't copy and paste my whatchamacallit. Copy. Twitter's website. And then we need to get a link. Option, get shareable link. Oh wow, I'm too far. I'm 8 characters over. I was 8 characters over having a tweet. No, I'm 2 under. So we have now tweeted that we're flying, and now let's go over to our good friends LinkedIn and make sure that we post that we're live on LinkedIn. Why do I post that I'm live on LinkedIn? Because I do feel there's value for people to learn about live streaming from a professional perspective, which is why I post there. Do I ever imagine anyone from LinkedIn is gonna be like, let's go watch Craw fly a plane? No, but hey, why not? I just got a sound, a da-ding. I don't know what the da-ding is for. Who knows? Anyway, let's put today's secret phrase is garlic bread.
Wait, so you ain't single? Alright, I'm gonna head out. Are you kidding me? You think that all of this would be single? Baby, I'm garlic bread. And you thought I was single? I'm so sorry.
If you don't know who that is, her name is Lil Siha, and she's one of the most entertaining people I know here on Twitch. I don't know her personally, but I've watched her sometimes. I generally don't hang out on large streamers stuff, but she's someone who I do lurk on frequently enough. So yeah, check her out if she seems interesting. She's got great comebacks. In that particular moment, someone, it's good times. Anyway, so today we are going to be flying. I realized I didn't get my drink, so just bear with me 1 second while I go get myself a drink with on the Be Right Back screen.
Dad will be right back. Dad will be right back. He might use the bathroom. He might get a snack. He might move Audrey. He might move Sam to his bedroom. He might move Maggie. He might go to get a snack or a drink in 5 minutes. He might be right back in 1 minute or 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 9 minutes, 10 minutes, or an hour if you see a stream.
Alright, I'm back. There we go. Today's Zevia flavor of the day, orange. Aren't you glad that I drink Zevia soda? If you've never had this, it's not quite like an orange crush. It tastes more like a soda version of like orange juice. So I highly recommend you guys check it out if you want to have a 0-calorie soda that tastes like orange juice. Oh wait, what's that? Oh, interesting. So what are we doing? Let's get our plane off the ground by going over to this screen. There it goes. That's a good level to put it at. I really like having this fader, by the way. This is the best decision I've made for my stream in terms of my ability to control things. Alright, so let us go to... Today's flight is going to be going from Fermont, or the Caniapiscau Airport, to the Iqaluit Airport. Well, once we're at cruising altitude, we'll be cracking open our book and we're going to be enjoying some quality reading. So let us fly. Ah, yes. Okay. We're gonna go ready to fly. Before we do anything, let's make the temperature or the weather a little better. Because I don't want to fly in the dark. So if we start at like... So we're supposed to be landing at about 3. So let's start at 1. There we go. Here's our lovely, lovely plane. Let's zoom out as much as we possibly can. Look at this beautiful, beautiful scenery that we're looking at in our plane. And I need to hit Control number delete to get rid of that. And now we got to go to full throttle. We're doing great. T4. Let's go out to a camera.
Montreal Center Beechcraft 6801 is type Beechcraft King Air 1 miles west of Charlie Charlie Papa 6 2002.
And now we are heading north.
Flight following.
We don't give you guys.
01 Montreal Center. Squawk 2432.
Squawk 24 tree 2 Beechcraft 801.
Beechcraft 801 radar contact 2 miles west of Charlie Charlie Papa 6 3,700 feet. Altimeter 29.92.
Roger Beechcraft 801.
This is beautiful country. Once I get myself onto that pink line and we know which direction we're heading, then we'll read our book. I hope everyone's ready to enjoy that. It should be a good book today. straighten on out. And there we go. Aloha! Clearly not a gamer. How are you doing? Ladies and gentlemen in my chat, if you don't know my good friend Lauren, she's name is also goes by Clearly Not a Gamer. She's a wonderful ginger Scottish lass. Yeah. Check her out, she's a good time. We're almost at cruising altitude. And once we're there, we're going to start reading our book tonight. Hopefully your room decluttering is going well. Check her out. She describes herself as a 24-year-old Scottish ginger doing her best at games. Her main games are Fortnite and Call of Duty. She's just having fun and going with the flow. I recommend checking her out, everyone. She's a wonderful human being. Alright. I feel like we're heading north enough that we can go to our book screen. Alright, so right now we're reading a book called Digital Minimalism. The idea behind digital minimalism is that we are supposed to trying to get away from doing the same old over and over and over again, right? How can we do a better job of stuff? So we've gone through the first couple steps. Now we're on step 3, which is how to reintroduce technology. After your 30-day break comes to the final step of digital declutter, reintroducing optional technologies back into your life. This reintroduction is more demanding than you could imagine. Some of the participants in my mass declutter experiment treated the process as a casual digital detox, reintroducing all of their optional technologies when the declutter ended. This is a mistake. The goal of the final step is to start from a blank slate and only let back into your life technology that passes your strict minimalist standards. It's the care you take here that'll determine whether this project sparks lasting change in your life. With this in mind, for each of your optional technologies that you're considering introducing into your life, you must first ask, does this technology directly support something that I deeply value? This is the only condition on which you should let one of these tools into your life. The fact that it offers some value is irrelevant. The digital minimalist deploys technology to serve the things they find most important in their life, and is happy missing out on everything else. For example, when asking this question, you might decide that browsing Twitter in search of a distraction doesn't support an important value. On the other hand, keeping up with your cousin's baby photos on Instagram does seem to support the importance you place on family. Once a technology passes the standard screening question, it must then face a more difficult standard. Is this technology the best way to support this value? We justify many of the technologies that tyrannize our time and attention with some tangential connection to something we care about. The minimalist, by contrast, measures the value of these connections and is unimpressed by all but the most robust. Consider our above example about what following your cousin's baby pictures on Instagram. We noted that this activity might be tentatively justified by the fact that you deeply value family. But the relevant follow-up question is whether browsing Instagram photos is the best way to support this value. There you go. On some reflection, the answer is probably no. Something as simple as actually calling this cousin once a month or so would probably prove significantly more effective in maintaining this bond. Lauren, she's a little tired. Decluttering is intense. Well, hopefully this reading will help you declutter your digital life. If a technology makes it through both these screening questions, the one last question you must ask yourself before it's allowed back into your life: how am I going to use this technology going forward to maximize its value and minimize its harms? A point I got to explore in part 2 is that many attentive economic companies want you to think about their services in a binary way. Either you use it or you don't. This allows them to entice you into their ecosystem with some features you find important. And then, once you're a user, deploy attention engineering to overwhelm you with integrated options, trying to keep you engaging with their services well beyond your original purpose. Digital minimalists combat this by maintaining standard operating procedures. Oh wait, I had a comment. How do I like Flight Simulator? I think Flight Simulator is kind of a fun, chill, relaxing game. It's actually an interesting thing that I've talked to a couple people about. When we stream things, there's two purposes for us to stream, in my opinion. One is because we think people will enjoy the content that we're doing. For instance, I think people like watching me build the Lego sets. I think people like watching me play The Walking Dead. The other thing is, I think people stream because they're trying to carve time out of their life to do something. And this right here, Flight Simulator, is a game that I stream because I think it's a great way for me to carve time out to play this game. Because I do like looking at the scenery. I do like the visuals of this game. But one of the problems I have is to really play this game, it takes hours out of your time at a time, right? The world in this game is a 360, it's to scale. So if it takes you 3 hours to fly somewhere, in real life, it's going to take you 3 hours to fly that distance in the game. And I honestly feel like if I didn't play this game on stream, I wouldn't ever fly great distances. I would practice landings and takeoffs. I'd skip to the end. I would try to do things where I find time here and there. Yeah, maybe this would become a game if I had like a more of a traditional setup where like I just had to like plug it in. Maybe, I don't know. So one of the reasons I stream this is because it gives me an opportunity to play this game for a couple hours at a time. And I thought about like what's the best way to broadcast this game when I don't think it's very interesting. I don't think it's very interesting to watch, and I don't think there's a whole lot for me to talk about, especially right now. I'm flying over like northern Canada, right? And here, let me get rid of the Kindle and the little laptop. What the hell am I supposed to talk about looking at this? Like, what is there to talk about? Look, there's some clouds. It's cool for like 5 minutes to talk about it. Whereas for a while I was doing kind of a clip show where I would play like highlights from my stream, but then I fell behind making them and I didn't really like what I was doing with it. And so then in the last stream I ended up just reading, and that I found that to be really good for me because again, I don't find enough time in my daily life to read. So here is me saying once a month I'm going to fly a plane for 2 to 3 hours, and I'm going to read for most of that time period. And if people pop in and chat, that's great. If people don't, that's okay too. And mahalo, friend. Yes, it is the real world. So when I fly over Scotland, you're going to have to let me know how it looks, because I don't know how much experience you have with northern Canada. We're currently flying from, and you can see it in the stream, we're flying from the Caniapiscau, Florida. It's an unorganized territory in the Côte Nord region of Quebec, Canada. So we're flying from there, and we're going to Iqaluit, which is the airport for the town of Iqaluit in Nunavut, Canada, which is as far this north as Canadian gets. Exactly, and that's why I do the stream. And like I said, it's an honor to see you here, my friend, and chat with you. And that's kind of the purpose, I think, of this stream, is to give me this. I think if I was a just chatting streamer, this would be a great game to just chat with, because I could just play it in the background while I talk to my friends. Because like I said, this game doesn't require a lot of interactions, right? It just doesn't. Like, it doesn't require me to do a lot of brain thought. I'm just pointing a plane to a dot on the horizon, and I'm hoping I get there eventually. And if I was really good with, like, the controls, you can, like, tweak it so you don't even have to hold the control. You can just, like, set the flaps and the rudders and stuff, and so it just keeps the same height. Whereas I'm just one-handing it right now. Anyway, back to the book, because again, I do think the book is an interesting conversation point for people. So where were we? Digital minimalists combat this by maintaining standard operating procedures. And I just realized I'd never done something. Hold on, let's go to... Okay. I have to add my new overlay on top of this. Get rid of my old alert. And that is going to be... Where is that browser? Mix it up overlay. There it goes. Okay. So if I get any people who do the things that would cause an alert or something, it'll now pop up on the screen. I hadn't set that yet. Anyway, digital minimalists combat this by maintaining standard operating procedures that dictate when and how they use digital tools in their lives. They would never simply say, I use Facebook because... Sorry, I had to drink. It helps my social life. They would instead declare something more specific, said, I check Facebook each Saturday on my computer to see what my close friends and family are up to. I don't have the app on my phone. I culled my list of friends down to just meaningful relationships. Pulling together these pieces, here's a summary of this minimalist screening process. The minimalist technology screen. To allow an optional technology back into your life at the end of the digital declutter, it must serve something you deeply value. Offering benefit is not enough. Be the best way to use technology to serve this value. If it's not, replace it with something better. Have a role in your life that is constrained with a standard operating procedure that specifies when and how you use it. I think this is actually a really good thing for streamers to consider, right? Stick with me on this. Streamers, to some degree, feel this pull and nag to be a part of all the social medias, to be in touch with every one of them all the time, consistently. And I see this a lot, where people will create one piece of content and they will post it everywhere. Asking the question is, does using Twitter serve something you deeply value for your stream, and not just a benefit, some benefit. You can't just say, oh, using Twitter is going to help me grow, but understanding how will Twitter serve something you deeply value for your stream. Be the best way to use technology to serve this value. Again, let's highlight that. Is, like, you make a clip from your show. Is Instagram the best way to use technology to serve this value? Or is TikTok the best way to use this technology to serve this value? And lastly, have a role in your life that is constrained with a standard operating procedure that specifies when and how you use it. That is something I know I struggle with. I need to get that one. So let's think. Okay. Instagram. Let's go through the social medias and let's ask ourselves those 3 questions when we talk them through. Alright, let me pull up the social medias I have. So I'm going to ask those questions for all of them. I'm going to bring up my link tree. Linktree, Aloha Pra. Let's start with Twitch. Does Twitch serve something I deeply value? Yes. Twitch is the backbone of my community. Twitch is the reason I do this. If I don't have Twitch, I can delete all the rest of the social medias right now. Let's be real honestly. Let's be real honest. My main channel for YouTube, does it serve something I deeply value? Not in its current form. I want to use my Twitch main channel to be a place where I create videos. And it is not doing that right now. I don't have time, but that is the purpose of it. My YouTube VODs on Twitch. Does it serve something you deeply value? Yes, having a record of all the things I've done. Multi-streaming is also there too. Be real. Does it serve something I deeply value? I'm not connected with anyone on Be Real. Let's be real about that. Let me look to see all the people I'm connected with on Be Real. I will list them all out by name. Oh, I'm late on my Be Real. Let's take the picture. Let's take the Be Real picture. Oh, it gave me credit for taking my picture finally. I took it yesterday though. Let's look at my friends. My friends. I have 2 friends, Derailed and Mannix. I have no pending requests. I've sent out 2 requests. Neither of the people have responded to my request to be their friend. But I like Be Real. I think the thing I like about Be Real is it allows me to take pictures, share them, share my life. Alright? So yes. TikTok. Does it serve something I deeply value? Yes, I like the video.
801 contact Montreal Center on 133.2. Good day.
Alright, I have no idea what they said. Maybe they were passing.
3.2 for Beechcraft 801.
Okay, got it.
Montreal Center, Beechcraft 6801, 14,200 feet.
Beechcraft 6801 Montreal Center altimeter 29.9 to continue as planned.
Alright, that was like my plane talking to like their plane. TikTok, does it serve something I deeply value? I find TikTok to be the most interesting social media that I use from a video perspective. I also kind of want to kill TikTok. I want to be getting what I do on TikTok and getting that onto my YouTube channel instead. And use TikTok I think is good from a quick and dirty storytelling perspective. I think my YouTube, and so I think about like the things I do on TikTok. I think there's value to having this value there. Hive, worthless. There's nothing Hive does well. Nothing. Instagram. I would strongly consider replacing Instagram with BeReal. I don't think Instagram does anything for me. So based upon these three things, I think it is fair to say I need to say aloha to Instagram. Leave my Instagram profile up, and there's no value to taking it down. But just kind of saying, I don't use this. I don't need it on my phone. Only going on it once a week to make sure that I handle my requests. I think it's time to say aloha to Instagram. Hover, dead. Hover is dead. Does Hover even exist? I can still sign into Hover, I guess. I don't even know what my Hover password is. I did just sign into Hover. The last time I posted on Hover was... I was playing Lego Indiana Jones. God, that's forever. I don't even see a date last time I posted it. I liked Hover. I really liked Hover. But Hover served a purpose. Hover got me connected to doing things on TikTok. Which I also think will get me connecting to doing things on YouTube. So Hover served a purpose, and the purpose is no longer there. But there's no value to being on Hover. Twitter. And I can't keep Hover because it's some benefit. Someone might find me on Hover. I'm not posting on Hover. Twitter. I see value in Twitter. I see value in Twitter. There you go. We've done it. We've looked at all of them. Alright, let's move on. You can apply this screen to any new technology that you consider adopting. I think it's important to learn what the two technologies are that are out there that you may want to use. I don't think you have to use them or not use them, for instance. So that's something to consider. When you deploy it at the end of a digital declutter, however, it becomes particularly effective, as the preceding break from these technologies provide you with clarity on your values and confidence that your life doesn't actually require that slavishly stick with the status quo. If you're like many other participants in my mass declutter experiment, the role of technology Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. My chat message box accidentally deleted. Is it right that I can change that? Okay. When you deploy it at the end of a digital declutter, it becomes particularly effective, as the preceding break from these technology provides you with clarity on your values and confidence that your life doesn't actually require that you savagely stick with the digital status quo. I can see that. If you're like many other participants in your mass declutter experiment, the role of technology in your life will look quite different after navigating the reintroduction step with the above screening process. An electrical engineer named D, for example, was surprised to discover that during his digital declutter, how addicted he had become to checking news online, and how anxious it was making him, especially politically charged articles. I dumped all news during my declutter and I loved it. Ignorance is truly bliss sometimes. When the declutter concluded, he recognized that a complete news black-off was not sustainable. He also recognized that subscribing to dozens of email newsletters and compulsively checking breaking news sites was not the best way to satisfy his need to be informed. He now checks allsides.com once a day, a news site that covers top stories. But for each story, it neutrally links 3 articles, one from a source associated with the left, one from the right, and one from the center. I could care less about that. This format has a way of diffusing the aura of emotional charge that permeates a lot of our current political coverage, allowing D to stay up to date speed without the spike in anxiety. I like what they're trying to do with technology like that. I think there's a lot of value to that type of technology. I think it's going it about the wrong way, because I think people need to learn what is the right way, like how to watch news and like understand the bias when you're reading an article. Understand what the bias means for that one thing. So, learning to do that, I think, is more important than reading the same article 3 times, one from each bias. Kate solved the same problem, replacing reading news with listening to a news roundup podcast each morning, keeping her informed without providing her the opportunity to mindlessly browse. Not a bad approach. Mike, by contrast, found it effective to replace all online news with an older technology, radio. He discovered that putting on NPR in the background while working on manual tasks kept him sufficiently up to speed and saved him from many of the worst features of internet news. Ramel almost embraced older technology. Instead of checking social media feeds to stay up to date, he now has a newspaper delivered to his New York University dorm. So it's interesting because it said, keep listening to radio saved him from the worst features of internet news. And he was probably talking about the comment section. Nothing good ever happens in the comment section. Nothing ever good happens there. Perhaps ridiculously, many of the participants in my mass declutter experiment ended up abandoning the social media services that used to take up so much of their time. These services have a way of entering your life through cultural pressure and vague value propositions, so they tend not to hold up well when subjected to the rigor of the screen described above. It was also common, however, for participants to reintroduce social media in a limited manner to serve specific purposes. In these cases, they are often quite rigorous in taming the services with strict operating procedures. Mariana, for example, now restricts herself to checking her remaining social media services once a week during the weekend. A sales engineer named Enrique told me Twitter is what caused me the most harm, so he also restricted himself to checking his feed once a week on the weekend. Ramel and Taral decided it was sufficient to take the remaining social media apps off their phones. The extra difficulty involved in accessing these services through a browser on their desktop computers seemed sufficient to concentrate their use to only the most important purposes. An interesting experience shared by some of the participants was that they eagerly returned to the optional technologies only to learn they lost their taste for them. Here, for example, is how Kate described this experience for me. The day the declutter was over, I raced back to Facebook, to my old blogs, to Discord. Oh god, Discord. Gleefully and ready to dive back in. And then after about 30 minutes of aimlessly browsing, I kind of looked up and thought, why am I doing this? This is boring. This isn't bringing me any kind of happiness. It took a declutter for me to notice that these technologies aren't actually adding anything to my life. And she hasn't used them since. Good for her. Whoop. I course corrected too much. Trying to fly a plane while talking, reading, not the easiest thing. Several participants discovered that eliminating the point-and-click relationship maintenance enabled by social media requires that you introduce alternative systems with connecting with your friends. A digital advertiser named Alona, for example, set up a regular schedule for calling and texting their friends, which supported her most serious relationships at the cost of some of the more lightweight touches many have come to expect. In the end, I accepted the fact that I would have missed some events in their lives, but this was worthwhile for the mental energy it would save me to not be on social media. I can relate to that. I had abandoned Facebook for a period of time, and I still have not gone back to Facebook, but it helped me understand that there are things you're gonna miss, and it's okay. Other participants settled on an unusual operating procedures during the reintroduction process. Abby from London, who works in a travel industry, removed the web browser from her phone, a non-trivial hack. I figured I didn't need to know the answer to everything instantly, she told me. She then bought an old-fashioned notebook to jot down ideas when she's bored on the tube. I keep out OneNote on my phone because I have terrible handwriting. Caleb set a curfew for his phone. He can't use it between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. That's not a bad approach. While a computer engineer named Ron gives himself a quota of only 2 websites he's allowed to regularly check, a big improvement over the 40 or more sites he used to cycle through. Rebecca transformed her daily experience by buying a watch. This might sound trivial to older readers, but to a 19-year-old, sorry, I'm trying to get myself a footstool. Like Rebecca, this was an intentional act. I estimated that around 70% of the time, I got sucked down a rabbit hole of unproductivity that was due to me checking my phone for the time. Not wrong. To summarize the main points of this step, your month-long break from optional technologies resets your digital life. You can now rebuild it from scratch and in a much more intentional and minimalist manner. To do so, apply a 3-step technology screen for each optional technology you're thinking about reintroducing. The process will help you cultivate a digital life in which new technologies serve your deeply held, kind values as opposed to subverting them without your permission. It is in this carefree reintroduction that you make the intentional decisions that will define you as a digital minimalist. I don't know if I want to be a digital minimalist. Part 2, practices. We're about a quarter of the way through this book. How are we doing on our flight, by the way? It's as far as I can zoom out. What is this? YVP. Is that an airport I could have landed in? Why, yes. Looks like another airport I could land in. At CYFB. Trying to make this really big. So that's where I took off from. We're about to go over water shortly, and once we're over water, then there's nothing to do. Back to GPS tracking. It doesn't tell me how. Oh, wait. I'm sure it tells me how far I've got to go. Alright. Back to the book. Spend time alone. When solitude saved the nation. Oi. When you drive north from the National Mall in Washington, D.C. on 7th Street, your route begins among condo buildings and monumental stone architecture. After around 2 miles, it shifts to the brick row houses and crowded restaurants of the close-in city neighborhoods, Shaw, then Columbia Heights, and finally, Pentworth. Pentworth? Jeez. Many of the commuters who follow this route up through Pentworth don't realize that a couple blocks to the east, hidden behind a concrete perimeter wall and a gatehouse manned by a soldier, is a pocket of calm. The property is the Armed Forces Retirement Home. Well, that's good to know. Which has been located here in the Heights, overlooking downtown District CC in 1851, when under pressure from Congress, the federal government bought the land from banker George Riggs to build a home for disabled veterans of the country's recent wars. In the 19th century, the Soldiers' Home, as it was originally called, was surrounded by countryside. Today, the city sprawls well beyond the property, but when you pull through its main gates, as I did on an unseasonably warm afternoon while researching this book, its ability to provide a sense of escape remained intact. As I drove onto the grounds, the noise of the city diminished. There were green lawns, old trees, chirping birds, and the laughter of children from the nearby charter school playing on a playground. As I turned into a visitor's parking lot, I caught my first glimpse of what I had come to see. A spiraling 35-room Gothic Revival style cottage, originally built by George Riggs and recently restored to recapture how it would have appeared in the 1860s. The cottage is now a historical site because it once played host to a famous visitor. During each summer and fall of 1862, 63, and 64, Abraham Lincoln resided there, commuting back and forth to the White House on horseback. But this site is more than just a place where an important president stayed. Wonder why he didn't stay in the White House. A growing amount of research suggests that the time and space for quiet. Reflection in the cottage may have played a key role in helping Lincoln make a sense of the traumas of the Civil War and tackle the hard decisions that he faced. It was this idea that something as simple as silence might have shaped our country's history that brought me to Lincoln's cottage that fall afternoon to find out more. To understand Lincoln's drive to escape the White House, I'm glad he's telling us, you must imagine what life was like for this untested, one-term congressman thrust unexpectedly into command during our country's most trying period to date. Immediately after Lincoln's inauguration, the day he gave his heady Better Angels of Our Nature address and attempted to convince the splintering union that it could endure, Lincoln was launched into a whirlwind of duty and distraction. This president had absolutely no honeymoon, writes historian William Lee Miller. He had no calm first days in which he could settle into the presidential office and think his way towards what he wanted to do by careful steps. Instead, as Miller colorfully puts it, he was slapped in the face on the first business minute of his presidency by the necessity of decision. Miller is not exaggerating. As Lincoln later conveyed to his friend Senator Orville Browning, the first thing that was handed to me after I entered this room when I came from the inauguration was a letter from Major Anderson saying that their provisions would be exhausted. Major Anderson was the commander of the besieged Fort Sumter in Charleston, the fulcrum in which the threat of a looming civil war then rested. The decision on whether to evacuate or defend Sumter was the first of an avalanche of similar crises that Lincoln faced daily as the executive of a union sliding towards dissolution. The gravity of these times is not enough to free Lincoln from the other less weighty obligations that relentlessly claimed most of the remaining scraps of his schedule. Virtually from Lincoln's first day in office, writes Lincoln scholar Harold Holzer, a crush of visitors besieged the White House stairways and corridors, climbed through windows at levees, and camped outside Lincoln's office door. These visitors arrived to petition for jobs or other personal favors, and included friends and more than a few relatives of his wife, Mary Lincoln. The White House Historical Association preserves an engraving in their archives, originally published in the newspaper a month after Lincoln's inauguration, that succinctly captures this reality. It shows a crowd of 24 top-handed men milling right outside the doors to the room where Lincoln was meeting with his cabinet. They were there, the caption explains, to aggressively seek employment as soon as the president emerged. Even though Lincoln eventually attempted to better organize these visitors, making them take turns, as if waiting to be shaved at the barber shop, Lincoln joked, dealing with the public remained, as Holzer summarizes, the biggest drain on President's time and energy. Against this backdrop of bustle, Lincoln's decision to spend almost half of the year escaping the White House, sitting out each night to make the long horseback commute to the quiet college at the Soldiers' Home makes sense. The cottage provided Lincoln something we now would have thought been almost impossible to obtain in the White House: time and space to think. Mary and the president's son Tad lived with Lincoln at the cottage. Their older son Robert was away at college, but they frequently traveled, so the president often had the spiraling house to himself. To be sure, Lincoln was never literally by himself at the Soldiers' Home. In addition to his household staff, 2 companies of the 150th Pennsylvania Volunteers were camped on the lawn to provide protection. But what made his time at the cottage special was the lack of people demanding his attention. Even when he wasn't technically alone, Lincoln was able to be alone with his thoughts. We know that Lincoln took advantage of this quiet to think because many accounts of people coming to visit Lincoln at the cottage specifically mentioned that their arrival interrupted his solitude. A letter written by Treasury employee named John French, for example, describes the following scene when he arrived unannounced with his friend Colonel Scott during the early darkness of a summer evening. The servant who answered the bell led the way to the little parlor, where in the glowing Sorry, something distracted me. We're in the glowing, entirely alone, sat Mr. Lincoln, having thrown off coat and shoes with a large palm leaf fan in his hand, who reposed in a broad chair, one leg hanging over its arm. He seemed to be in deep thought. Lincoln's commute through the countryside between the capital and his college also provided him time to think. We know Lincoln valued this source of solitude, as he would occasionally sneak out to begin his ride back to the capital. Aloha, Lone Wolf. How are you doing, my friend? Welcome to the stream. Today we are currently flying between Fermont, Canada, and Iqaluit, Canada. We're currently reading a book called Digital Minimalism. But how are you doing, Lone Wolf? Hopefully you're having yourself a good day. So, Lone Wolf, I'm just going to warn you. I changed how Aloha the bot works. Aloha the bot does not no longer respond to someone saying aloha. I'm going to let you pause to let that in. Aloha the bot will now respond to the first message anyone sends in chat. So because you gave me that kind of like because you kind of gave me that face, it responded to that, but it's not going to respond to you saying aloha or hello or anything like that. Yeah, because this is the flight sim stream and all we're doing is enjoying the scenery of northern Canada as we fly 319 more nautical miles. We're reading a book and just enjoying the aesthetics of it. I know you don't get to look at this gorgeous face, but I figured I would give you the gorgeous face for a very short period of time, my friend. Mahalo for being here. I greatly appreciate you. Where were we? We know Lincoln valued the source of solitude as he would occasionally sneak out to begin his ride back to the capital without the cavalry company assigned to protect him. This was not a decision made lightly, as the military had previously uncovered a Confederate plot to assassinate Lincoln on this route, and the president was shot at least on one occasion during the ride. Well, we do know he was eventually shot and killed. This time to reflect likely refined Lincoln's responses to the key events during his presidency. Folklore, for example, ascribes Lincoln scribbling the Gettysburg Address on the train ride to deliver his famed speech. This was not, however, Lincoln's usual process. He typically worked on drafts for weeks leading up to important events. As Aaron Carlson Mass, the executive director of the nonprofit that oversees the cottage, explained to me during my visit. During the weeks leading up to the Gettysburg Address, Lincoln was here at the cottage, often walking alone at night in the military cemetery. He did not keep a diary, so we don't know his innermost thoughts. We knew he was there, encountering the human cost of war, right before he wrote those memorable lines. Interesting. The college also provided the setting where Lincoln wrestled with the Emancipation Proclamation, both necessity to free Southern slaves and the form that this emancipation should take. were complicated questions that vexed the Lincoln administration, especially at a time when they were terrified of losing the border slave states to the Confederacy. Lincoln invited visitors like Senator Orville Browning to the college to discuss relevant issues. The president would also famously record his ideas on scraps of paper he would sometimes store in the lining of his top hat as he wandered the grounds. Lincoln eventually wrote the initial drafts of the proclamation at the cottage. When I first toured the house, I saw the desk where Lincoln first penned those important words. It now sits in the high-ceilinged bedroom between two tall windows that overlook the back lawn. When Lincoln sat there, he would have seen the tents of the Union soldiers camped on the grass of the lawn a few miles beyond. The dome of the National's capital, which at the time, like the country, was still under construction. The desk I saw in Lincoln's cottage is a replica, as the original was moved to the Lincoln bedroom of the White House. Interesting. This is ironic because almost certainly Lincoln would have struggled much more with this historical task if he had been forced to grapple with it amid the bustle and distraction of his official residence. Lincoln's time alone with his thoughts played a crucial role in his ability to navigate a demanding wartime presidency. We can therefore say, with only mild hyperbole, that in a certain sense, solitude saved our nation. The goal of this chapter is to argue that the benefits Lincoln received from this time alone extend beyond the historical figures or those similarly faced with major decisions. Everyone benefits from regular doses of solitude, and equally important, anyone who avoids this state for an extended period of time will, like Lincoln during his early month in the White House, suffer. In the pages ahead, I hope to convince you that regardless of how you decide to shape your digital ecosystem, you should follow Lincoln's example. Give your brain regular doses of quiet it requires to support a monumental life. The value of solitude. Before we can usefully discuss solitude, we need to better understand what we mean by this term. To aid us in this effort, we can turn towards the unlikely pair of guides, Raymond Ketheledge and Michael Irwin. Ketheledge is a respected judge serving on the United States Court of Appeals of the Sixth Circuit. Irwin is a former Army officer who served in both Iraq, and Afghanistan. They first met in 2009, when Irwin was stationed in Ann Arbor to study towards a graduate degree. Though Ketheledge and Irwin were separated in both age and life experiences, it did not take long for them to recognize a shared interest in a topic of solitude. Ketheledge, as it turned out, relies on long periods alone with his thoughts to write his famously sharp legal opinions, often working at a simple pine desk in a barely renovated barn with no internet connection. I get an extra 20 IQ points from being in that office, he explains. Jeez, he'd hate my office. God, he would hate my office. Irwin, for his part, used long runs alongside the cornfields of Michigan to work through the difficult emotions he faced, first returning from combat, joking that running is cheaper than therapy. Soon after their initial meeting, Ketheledge and Irwin decided to co-write a book on the topic of solitude. It took them 7 years, but their efforts culminated in 2017 release of Lead Yourself First. The book summarizes with the tight logic you expect from a federal judge and former military officer that the author's case for importance of being alone with your thoughts. Before outlining their case, however, the authors start with what is arguably one of the most important valuable contribution, a precise definition of solitude. Many people mistakenly associate this term with physical separation, requiring perhaps that you hike to a remote cabin miles from another human being. This flawed definition introduces a standard of isolation that can be impractical for most dissatisfied on any sort of regular basis. As Keithledge and Irwin explain, however, solitude is about what's happening in your brain, not the environment around you. I mean, I know people are watching me, but I think there are times when you're streaming on Twitch and chat's not moving, where you feel solitude. So this is a very interesting thing to think about. They defined a subjective state in which your mind is free from input from other minds. Interesting. Okay. Interesting. You can enjoy solitude in a crowded coffee shop. I know you can. On a subway car, or as President Lincoln discovered at his cottage, while sharing your lawn with two companies of Union soldiers, so long as your mind is left to grapple only with its own thoughts. Very true. On the other hand, solitude can be banished in even the quietest setting if you allow input from other minds to intrude. In addition to direct conversation with another person, these inputs can also take the form of reading a book, listening to a podcast, watching TV, or performing just about any activity that might draw your attention to a smartphone screen. Solitude requires you move past reacting to information created by other people, and instead on your own thoughts and experiences, whatever you happen to be. Why is solitude important? Or valuable? Kethridge and Irwin detail many benefits, most of which concern the insight and emotional balance that comes from unhurried self-reflection. Of the many case studies they present, one that resonated particularly strongly concerned Martin Luther King Jr. They note that King's involvement in the Montgomery bus boycott started haphazardly. King happened to be the charismatic and well-educated new minister in town when the local chapter of the NAACP decided to take a stand against bus segregation policies. King's subsequent nomination to be the leader of the newly formed Montgomery Improvement Association, which occurred in a church meeting in late 1955, caught King off guard. He agreed only reluctantly, saying, "Well, if you think I can render some service, I will." As the boycott dragged on, pressures increased on both King's leadership and his personal safety. These pressures were particularly intense given the unintentional manner in which King had become involved in the boycott. I'm going to turn it down. I just turned down my headphone volume, so please let me know if I turn down the volume of the plane in your guys. Yeah. These forces culminated on January 27, 1956, the night after King was released from his first stint in jail, where he had been locked up as a part of an organized campaign of police harassment. King returned home after his wife and young daughter had gone to sleep and realized that the time had come for him to clarify what he was about. Sitting alone with his thoughts, holding a cup of coffee at his kitchen table, King prayed and reflected. He embraced the solitude needed to make sense of the demands placed upon him. And in this space he found what the answer that would provide him the courage needed for what was ahead. And it seemed in that moment I could hear an inner voice saying to me, Martin Luther. Stand up for the righteousness. Stand up for justice. Stand up for truth. Biographer David Garrow later described this event as the most important night of King's life. I don't know, guys, you can see this, but we have now left the mainland, and we're going to be flying over water pretty much until we get towards Iqaluit. We're making great time here. Irwin and Caithledge are not, of course, the first commentators to notice the importance of solitude. Its benefits have been explored since at least the early days of the Enlightenment. All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. Blaise Pascal famously wrote in the late 17th century. Half a century later, and an ocean away, Benjamin Franklin took up the subject in his journal. I have read abundance of fine things on the subject of solitude. I acknowledge solitude an agreeable refreshment to a busy mind. The Academy was late to recognize the importance of time alone with your own thoughts. In 1988, noted English psychiatrist Anthony Storr helped correct this omission with his seminal book, Solitude, A Return to the Self. As Storr noted, by the 1980s, psychoanalysis had become obsessed with the importance of intimate personal relationships, identifying them as the most important source of human happiness. But Storr's study of history didn't seem to support his hypothesis. He opens his 1988 book with the following quote from Edward Gibbon. Conversation enriches the understanding, but solitude is the school of genius. He then boldly writes, Gibbon is surely right. Edward Gibbon lived a solitary life, but not only did he produce wildly influential work, he also seemed perfectly happy, Starr notes. That the need to spend a great deal of time alone was common among the majority of poets, novelists, and composers. Heedless Descartes, Newton, Locke, Pascal, Spinoza, Kant, Leibniz, Schopenhauer, Nietzsche, Kierkegaard, and Wittgenstein as examples of men who never had families or fostered close personal ties, yet still managed to live remarkable lives. But yeah, think how phenomenal they would have been if they had some kids. Oh, I missed something. Storr's conclusion is that we're wrong to consider intimate interaction as the sine qua non of human thriving. Solitude can be just as important for both happiness and productivity. I'm not going to disagree, but I'm not going to agree either. Right? Like, I agree that solitude is important for happiness and productivity. But it's hard to argue that if you live a life without having a close, meaningful relationship, you're really, like, I think they're the exception, not the rule. That's the best way to think about it. It's hard to ignore the fact that the entirety of Storr's list of remarkable lives, as well as many of the historical figures cited above, focus on men. As Virginia Woolf argued in her 1929 Feminist Manifesto, A Room of One's Own, this imbalance should not come as a surprise. Woolf would argue that that solitude is a prerequisite for original and creative thought. But she would then add that women have been systematically denied both literal and figurative room of their own in which to cultivate this stem. Okay. To Wolfe, in other words, solitude is not a pleasant diversion, but instead a form of liberation from the cognitive oppression that results in its absence. That is a bold line. Let's read that one again. Solitude is not a pleasant diversion, but instead a form of liberation from the cognitive oppression that results in its absence. In Wolfe's time, women were denied this liberation by patriarchal society. In our time, this oppression is increasingly self-inflicted by our preference for the distraction of the digital screen. This is the theme taken up by Canadian social critic named Michael Harris in his 2017 book, also titled Solitude. Harris is concerned that new technologies help create a culture that undermines time alone with your thoughts, noting that it matters enormously when that resource is under attack. His survey is the relevant literature that points to the crucial benefits provided by solitude, new ideas, an understanding of the self, and closeness to others. We've already discussed the first two benefits from this list, but the third is somewhere unexpected, and therefore worth briefly unpacking, especially considering how relevant it is. How relevant it will become when we later explore solitude's tension with the benefits of connectivity. Harris argues, perhaps counterintuitively, that the ability to be alone is anything but a rejection of close bonds, and can instead affirm them. Calmly experiencing separation, he argues, builds your appreciation for interpersonal connections when they do occur. Harris is not the first to note this connection. The poet and essayist Mary Sarton explored the strangeness of this point in a 1972 diary entry writing, "I am here alone for the first time in weeks, to take up my quote-unquote real life again at last. This is what is strange, that friends, even passionate love, are not my real life unless there's time alone in which to explore what and discover what is happening or what happened without the interruption, nourishing and maddening. This life will become arid. Yet I taste it fully only when I am alone." Wendell Berry summarized this point more succinctly when he wrote, "We enter solitude in which we also lose loneliness." Damn, I like that. Let's read that one again. We enter solitude in which also we lose loneliness. I'm gonna let you guys sit with that for a second. Examples similar to those given above are voluminous and point to a clear conclusion. Regular doses of solitude, mixed in with our difficult mode of society, are necessary to flourish as human beings. It's more urgent now than ever that we recognize this fact, because as we argue next, for the first time in human history, solitude is starting to fade together altogether. Solitude deprivation. The concern that modernity is at odds with solitude is not new. Writing in the 1980s, Anthony Storr complained that contemporary Western culture makes the peace of solitude difficult to attain. He pointed to music and the recent invention of the car telephone as the latest evidence of this encroachment of noise into all parts of our lives. only over 100 years earlier, Thoreau demonstrated similar concern, famously writing in Walden that we are in great haste to construct a magnetic telegraph from Maine to Texas. But Maine and Texas, it may be, have nothing important to communicate. I've never read Walden. I drive by Walden Pond on my way to visit my in-laws, and I feel like that is a book I should read. Thoughts in chat? Have y'all read Walden? Would you want to hear me read Walden? The question before us, then, is whether a current moment offers a new threat to solitude that is somehow more pressing than those bemoaned for decades. I argue that the answer is a definitive yes. Lone Wolf, why would you not want to hear me read Walden out of curiosity? I'm curious. I'd put my webcam on if that helps. Oh, you haven't read it before. Okay. So Walden, my understanding of what Walden is, if you've never heard of this book, it's one of those classic American books that I don't think as many people have read as they're willing to pretend have read it. So I'm going to Wikipedia it. Again, totally taking this digital minimalism to heart. Walden, first published in 1854 as Walden or Life in the Woods, is a book by American transcendentalist writer Henry David Thoreau. The text is a reflection upon the author's simple living in natural surroundings. The work is part of personal declaration of independence, social experiment, voyage of spiritual discovery, satire, and to some degree, a manual for self-reliance. Walden details Thoreau's experiences over the course of 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days in a cabin he built near Walden Pond, amidst woodland owned by his friend and mentor, Ralph Waldo Emerson, near Concord, Massachusetts. Thoreau makes precise scientific observations of nature as well as metaphorical and poetic uses of natural phenomena. He identifies many plants and animals by both their popular and scientific names, records in detail the color and clarity of different bodies of water, precise states and describes the freezing and thawing of the pond, and recounts his experiments to measure the depth and shape of the bottom of the supposedly bottomless Walden Pond. Evidently, there's a video game. Interesting. There is a Walden video game. We will look this up after we land. So I think if I play the game and I like the game, maybe I'll want to read the book. I don't think reading the book would make me want to play the game. So that is a potential thing to think about. Alright, back to the book. To understand my concern, the right place to start is the iPod revolution that occurred in the first years of the 21st century. We had portable music before the iPod, most commonly in the form of the Walkman and the Discman and their competitors. But these devices only played a restricted role in most people's lives, something you used to entertain yourself while exercising, or in the backseat of a car on a long family road trip. If you stood on a busy street corner in the 1990s, you would not see too many people sporting black foam Sony earbuds on their way to work. I mean, granted, I didn't spend a lot of time on corners in the 90s, but as a teenager in the 90s, I would strongly disagree with that statement. I felt like everyone had a Walkman or a Discman and had the headphones in. Constantly. By the early 2000s, however, if you stood on that same street corner, white earbuds would be nearly ubiquitous. The iPod succeeded not just by selling lots of units, but by changing the culture surrounding portable music. It became common, especially among younger generations, to allow your iPod to provide a musical backdrop to your entire day. Again, I don't think this person has ever met a teenager. Putting the earbuds in as you walk out the door, taking them off only when you couldn't avoid having to talk to another human. Again, never talk to a teenager. To put this in context, previous technologies that threatened solitude, from Thoreau's telegraph to Store's car phone, introduced new ways to occasionally interrupt time alone with your thoughts. Whereas the iPod provided for the first time the ability to be continuously distracted from your own mind. Again, I don't think you know what teenagers are like, and especially with how short the battery life was on the first iPods. The farmer in Thoreau's time might leave the quiet fireside to walk to town and check the evening telegraph dispatches, fragmenting a moment of solitude. But there was no way that this technology could offer continuous distraction to this farmer as he went about his day. The iPod was pushing us towards a newly alienated phase in our relationship with our own minds. This transformation, started by the iPod, however, didn't reach its full potential until the release of its successor, the iPhone, or generally the spread of modern internet-connected smartphones in the second decade of this 21st century. Again, I'm not talking trash, but I think the Crackberry, BlackBerry, aka the Crackberry, is a much more revolutionary change than the iPhone. I think this dude just hates Apple. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a big fan of Apple. The lightning cable is the absolute worst. But still, he's giving Apple too much credit here. Even though iPods became ubiquitous, there were still moments in which it was either too much trouble to slip in the earbuds, waiting to be called into a meeting, or it might be socially awkward to do so, sitting bored during a slow hymn at church service. The smartphone provided a new technology to banish these remaining slivers of solitude: the quick glance. At the slightest hit of boredom, you can now serendipitously glance any number of the apps or mobile adapted websites that have been optimized to provide you with an immediate and satisfying dose of input from other minds. It is now possible to completely...
Contact Montreal Center on 134.55. Good day.
Okay. Sorry,
Going to 1 tree, 4.55, Beechcraft 801. Montreal Center, Beechcraft 6801, 16,100 feet.
Beechcraft 6801 Montreal Center altimeter 29.9, to continue as planned.
Alright, that was just like the little talking people doing the talking things. What was it? It is now possible to completely banish solitude from your life. Thoreau and Store worried about people enjoying less solitude. We must now wonder if people may forget the state of being all together. Part of what complicates discussions about waning solitude in the smartphone age is that it's easy to underestimate the severity of this phenomenon. While many people admit that they use their phones more than they probably should, they don't often realize the full magnitude of this technology's impact. The NYU professor Adam Alter, whom I introduced earlier in this book, details a typical story of such underestimates in Irresistible. While researching his book, Alter decided to measure his own smartphone use. To do so, he downloaded an app called Moment, which tracks how often, how long you will at your screen every day. I believe this app is just built into phones now. Like, I can see that. Like, I can literally see that. I don't have that app. I have an iPhone, though. Before activating the app, Alter estimated he probably checks his phone around 10 times a day for a total of an hour of screen time. Alright, let's see how much I have. I have currently 4 hours and 3 minutes of time today. I have 2 hours and 49 minutes of social, 29 minutes of utility, and 7 minutes of shopping. I spent 2 hours on TikTok today. Oh dear God. 27 minutes on Twitter, 27 minutes on Edge, 7 minutes on Amazon, 5 minutes of messages, and 4 minutes on LinkedIn. Aloha, Sam. I'm playing a flight game and I'm reading a book at the same time. No, the plane is doing a pretty good job of flying itself right now.
Oh, that. There was no such thing as autopilot.
It's not on autopilot. I've just tweaked the gears and stuff, so benefit for everyone who's watching.
I'm safe.
Here's Sam.
Hey, your favorite one.
Okay. Aloha, Sam. No, we can't steal the plane. Shouldn't you be in bed by now? Oh, okay. And what are you gonna do? Well, I'm reading a book and I'm streaming, and we're just reading a book and talking. So it's nothing fun for you. Yep. Not even Zevia for you to enjoy. Please close the door. Close the door. Love my kids. I swear I do. Okay, interesting. I'm debating if I should use it, because I do think there's value to that. 2 hours of my day today spent on TikTok. Alright. A month later, Moment provided Alter the truth. On average, he was picking up his phone 40 times a day and spending around a total of 3 hours looking at his screen. I'm on pace for that. Alter contacted Kevin Holtz, the app developer behind Moment. As Holtz revealed, Alter is not an outlier. In fact, he's remarkably typical. The average Moment user spends right around 3 hours a day looking at their smartphone screen, with only 12% spending less than an hour. The average Moment user picks up their phone 39 times a day. Wow. That doesn't seem high. As Holtz reminds Alter, these numbers probably skew low, as the people who download the app like Moment are people who are already careful about their use. There are millions of smartphone users who are oblivious or just don't care enough to track their usage. I'd like them to just take out the word "just don't care." Some people, I'm not saying they don't care, I'm just saying it's not important to them, which I guess is just don't care. I think when you use a phrase like "just don't care," you're making an implication that there's a negative connotation to the words "just don't care," and I don't like that they use them. Anyway, there's a reasonable chance they're spending even more than 3 hours on their phones every day. I'd agree with that statement. Smartphone usage numbers cited above only count the time spent looking at your screen. When you added time spent listening to music, audiobooks, and podcasts, none of which are measured by the Moment app, it should become more clear how effective people will have become banishing moments of solitude from their daily existence. To simplify our discussion, let's give this thread its own name: solitude deprivation. A state in which you spend close to zero time alone with your own thoughts, free from input from other minds. As recently as the 1990s, solitude deprivation was difficult to achieve. There are just too many situations in everyday life that force you to be alone with your thoughts, whether you want it or not. Waiting in line, crammed into a crowded subway car, walking down the street, working on your yard. Today, as I've just argued, it's become widespread. The key question, of course, is whether the spread of solitude deprivation should concern us. Tackled abstractly, the answer is not immediately obvious. The idea of being alone can seem unappealing, and we've been sold over the past 2 decades that the idea the more connectivity is better than less. The idea of being alone can seem unappealing, and we've been sold over the past 2 decades the idea that more connectivity is better than less. I'd agree with that. Surrounding the announcement of his company's 2012 IPO, for example, Mark Zuckerberg triumphantly wrote, "Facebook was built to accomplish a social mission to make the world more open and connected." I like to think that's what he thought Facebook was made to do, and not just stalk on pretty girls. Right, that was the whole point when he first built it. Don't lie to himself, buddy. This obsession with connection is clearly overly optimistic, and it's easy to make light of its grandiose ambition. But when solitude deprivation is put into the context of the ideas discussed earlier in this chapter, this prioritization of communication over reflection becomes a source of serious concern. For one thing, when you avoid solitude, you miss out on the positive things it brings you. The ability to clarify hard problems, to regulate your emotions, to build moral courage, and to strengthen relationships. If you suffer from chronic solitude deprivation, the quality of your life degrades. Let's read that again. If you suffer from chronic solitude deprivation, therefore, the quality of your life degrades. Thank you for watching my Twitch, by the way. Eliminating solitude also introduces a new negative repercussions that we're only now beginning to understand. A good way to investigate a behavior's effect is to study a population that pushes the behavior to an extreme. When it comes to constant connectivity, these extremes are readily apparent among young people born after 1995, which is the first group to enter the preteen years with access to born to smartphones, tablets, and persistent internet connectivity. As most parents or educators of this generation will attest, the device use is constant. The term constant is not hyperbole. A 2015 study by Common Sense Media found that teenagers were consuming media, including texting, messaging, and social networks 9 hours a day on average. If you don't know what Common Sense Media is, it's an interesting organization. Their goal is to provide parents, at least from how we use it, with information on TV shows and movies and books and other things that can shape whether or not that thing is appropriate for our kids to use. Like, oftentimes we will ask ourselves if there's like a show or something the kids want to watch. We'll go to Common Sense Media. We'll read the review. They'll explain. They have kind of like a 6 or 8 point like thing that they look on. So, like, for instance, what would Common Sense Media say about Twitch? Twitch is a website. popular gaming site hosts many videos and some iffy content. Parents say it's for 15 and up. Kids say it's based on 13 and up. Research shows between, a ladder level. Here's a parent's guide to what's on the website. Positive messages, 2 out of 5 star. The site says its mission is to provide a positive, friendly experience for users. A number of streamers also request that users remain positive when commenting on the content, but there's no guarantee that everyone will. Violence and scariness, 3 out of 5. Things generally don't get too gory or bloody in all channels, but some game characters brandish knives and guns and engage in combat. Content varies from channel to channel, so users will have to pay attention to the games and videos being streamed on a channel basis. Sex, romance, and nudity. I wonder if this was written before the hot tub channels. According to Twitter's community guidelines, sexually explicit content isn't allowed. And that seems to be pretty strictly enforced. No, it's not. Some bloggers do show cleavage. And a few segment names feature words like penis. But if nudity or extremely suggestive material exists, it isn't easily found. Language. Content broadcasters are supposed to enable a setting if they plan to share mature content, but some don't seem to use swearing that way. Kids may hear hosts say F-K or other swear words in a conversation. Just so we're clear, I didn't spell out F-K the website then. If kids set up a channel, they can use an auto-mod option to replace certain words in their chat feed with asterisks called questionable messages for review. Users are products and purchases. There we go. Users are encouraged to buy bits through Amazon PayPal to support streamers. They can also pay to subscribe to certain user-sponsored channels for $5 to $25 a month. Some channels also ask for donations. A link leads to an Amazon store with clothes and other certain merchandise. Users are encouraged to sign up for Amazon Prime services. Products may be listed on pages, and ads sometimes play before channel content. And lastly, the last scenario would be drinking, drugs, and smoking. Some channels and games mention marijuana and drinking. What parents need to know. Parents need to know that Twitch is an online streaming site that covers both gaming and non-gaming content. There's many settings that can help restrict its contact with other users, such as options that block private chat room invites. The site also makes a concerted effort to keep sexual content from being shared. Hot tub channels not included, by putting temporary and permanent bans on users who break these rules. But even with these standards, kids may encounter iffy stuff. Language is often a free-for-all during live feeds, with an F-K and other swear words frequently used, even though channel streamers are supposed to indicate whether they'll use mature language during a stream. Many users and streamers make drug and alcohol references during the broadcast too. Plus, a number of games feature a significant amount of shooting and violence, so it's up to the viewers to pay attention to the games being streamed and the kinds of games the streamer likes to play to avoid certain kinds of content. There's a fair amount of product promotion on the site for Amazon Prime channel subscriptions and other items. Kids will periodically see ads before or during streams. Read the privacy policy on the website to find out about the information that's collected and shared. And then you can get to actual individual user reviews. The first one was from Goldie Horn, an adult, was good, but is narrow, very bad. It was good once, but now it's a collection of booby streamers, toxicity scammers, and very rare one or two good streamer. Viewers just try to scam, snipe, report abuse, insult, and so on. Since there literally is no support at all, you as a community member are exposed to all of that without any protection at all. Here's another adult called Summer is Here 94. Twitch is a softcore porn advertised gaming. Pathetic website. Do not let your kids on this website. It's a joke. Twitch is softcore porn advertises gaming. Yes, just gaming, but one of the largest viewing and recommended section on Twitch is now porn. I don't think so. The moderating on the website is absolutely pathetic, and the people responsible are greedy losers who, in my opinion, should be ashamed of themselves for displaying porn to 10-year-old kids based on false advertising. Pathetic website from Pathetic Company. Did I say the company is pathetic? Something tells me he is a one viewer streamer who is mad that people don't want to watch him and thinks women only get views because of their boobs. So yeah, that's what Common Sense Media is. Alright, so where was it? We're talking about constant. This group, however, therefore, can play the role of a cognitive canary in the coal mine. Persistent solitude deprivation causes problems. We will see them show up here first. This is exactly what we find. My first indication that this hyper-connected generation was suffering came a few years before I started writing this book. I was chatting with the head of a mental health services at a well-known university where I'd been invited to speak. Click too fast. This administrator told me she'd begun seeing major shifts in student mental health. Until recently, the mental health center on campus had seen the same mix of teenage issues been common for decades. Homesickness, eating disorders, some depression, and the occasional case of OCD. Then, everything changed. Seemingly overnight, the number of students seeking mental health counseling massively expanded, and the standard mix of teenage issues was dominated by something that had used to be relatively rare: anxiety. Bullshit. Oh my god, there was so much anxiety. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. We had anxiety about other things. No. She told me that everyone seemed to suddenly be suffering from anxiety or anxiety-related disorders. When I asked her what she thought caused the change, she answered without hesitation that it probably had something to do with smartphones. Probably had something to do. Probably. This does not probably. I mean, I'm not discounting it, but he is putting. His argument is that smartphones is causing this, and his first person he's presenting as being the person saying it is, says it probably has something to do with it. The sudden rise of anxiety-related problems coincided with the first incoming classes of students that were raised on smartphones and social media. She noticed that these new students were constantly frantically processing and sending messages. It seemed clear that the persistent communication was somehow messing with the students' brain chemistry. Again, it doesn't seem clear, she says, probably. A few years later, this administrator's hunch was validated by San Diego State University psychology professor Jane Twenge, who is one of the world's foremost experts on generational differences in American youth. Okay. As Twenge notes in September 2017 article for The Atlantic, she has been studying these trends for over 25 years, and they almost always appear and grow gradually. But starting around 2012, she noticed a shift in measurement of teenager emotional states as anything but gradual. The gentle slopes, the line graphs, charting how behavioral traits change with birth year, became steep mountains and cliffs, and many of the distinctive characteristics of millennial generation began to disappear. In all of my analysis, of generational data, some reaching back to the 1930s, I'd never seen anything like this. I need to take a quick break. Be right back. The plane will keep going, by the way.
Dad will be right back. Dad will be right back. He might use the bathroom. He might get a snack. He might move Audrey. He might move Sam to his bedroom. He might move Maggie. He might go to get a snack or a drink in 5 minutes. He might be right back in 1 minute or 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 9 minutes, 10 minutes, or an hour. If you see a streamer's name pop up in the chat, he might come to raid someone. He might just come to go. He might just come to go to the bathroom also. And please don't say he needs to go poop. And I was ready for the grand finale, and we all shout, he's gonna be.
Okay, so where were we? Young people born between 1995 and 2012, a group tweens called iGen, exhibited remarkable differences compared to the millennials that preceded them. One of the biggest and most troubling changes was iGen's psychological health. Rates of teen depression and suicides have skyrocketed, Twitch writes, with much of this seemingly due to massive increase in anxiety disorders. It's not an exaggeration to describe iGen as being on the brink of the worst mental health crisis in decades. What instigated these changes? Tweet agrees with the intuition of University mental health administrator when she notes that the shifts of mental health correspond exactly with the moment when the American smartphone ownership became ubiquitous. The defining trait of iGen, she explains, is they grew up with iPhones and social media and don't remember time before constant access to the internet. They're paying a price for the distinctive mental health. Much of this deterioration can be traced to their phones, which concludes. When journalist Benoit Lewis investigating this teen anxiety epidemic in the New York Times Magazine, he also discovered the smartphone kept emerging as a persistent signal among the noise of plausible hypotheses. Anxious kids certainly existed before Instagram, right? But many of the parents I spoke to worried. Many of the parents, not many of the kids, many of the parents worried of the kids' digital health habits around the clock, responding to texts, posting social media, obsessively following the filtered exploits of peers, were partly to blame for their children's struggles. Denizen Lewis assumed the teenagers themselves would dismiss this theory as standard parental grumbling, but this is not what happened. To my surprise, anxious teenagers tended to agree. Good to know I completely shrugged it off and then teenagers made me look bad. A college student he interviewed at a residential anxiety treatment center put it well. Social media is a tool, but it's become the thing we can't live without and it's making us crazy. As part of his reporting, Denizen Lewis interviewed Jean Tweens, who made it clear she didn't set out to implicate the smartphone. It seemed like too easy an explanation for negative mental health outcomes in teens, but it ended up being the only explanation that fit the timing. Lots of potential culprits, from stressful current events to an increased academic pressure, existed before the spike in anxiety began from 2011. The only factor which dramatically increased right about the same time as teenage anxiety was the number of young people owning their own smartphones. How many pages do I have before I have a break? It's going to be a while. So we're going to scroll back because we're going to get into landing soon. We're 51 nautical miles outside. I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was fun for me to read that. But we're about 50 nautical miles outside of Iqaluit. It's a beautiful sunset. We're going to start slowing down our plane a little bit. Because the first thing we can do that can help us land is slowing it down so that we lose altitude and we're not going nearly as fast. currently at 16,000 feet. Well, we're at 15,000 now. We're going down. I thought that was interesting. I enjoyed reading that. I think the thing that I found the most interesting about all of it was that, like, I felt like there was a little too much bashing of social media and persistent smartphone use. I mean, again, it is a digital minimalism book.
Montreal Center, Beechcraft 680.
It is for people who want to use their phones less and their devices less, which is something that I would personally like to do. But I think the thing that I'm missing
Cleared through Bravo airspace.
so
Beechcraft
much
801.
with this is that he seems to put it all on willpower. I don't know. I'm not sold with everything that he's talking about. I don't think everything he's talking about is spot on, and I believe everything he has to say. But, yeah. We're still dropping in elevation. We're down about 14,000 feet. We have about 40 miles to go. This is beautiful scenery. This is a game I know that I would enjoy playing when I'm just kind of relaxing at the end of the day. To be with my... This is a game that would be great for digital minimalism, right? Sit back, take off, fly to somewhere, just look at the scenery, be with your thoughts, journal. I can get behind this. Read a book while we fly in a comfortable chair. Not like the chair I'm sitting in right now, but my recliner that's back behind me. I like the recliner. I just don't necessarily like the way I look in the recliner on stream. I view all of my VODs. I think anyone who's serious about streaming should look at their VODs constantly to ask themselves, is this the best stream? And I'm very curious what this stream will look like. I'm probably not going to view this stream until I'm ready to stream again, because that's the one thing I want to get to with watching my VODs, is watching the VOD before I go out and do that stream again. So, like, I think there's value to watching it tomorrow when the stream is fresh in my mind, but I think there's a lot of value to looking at the stream again. So, like, right now, today is the 2nd. The next time I'm going to do flight stream, flight sim. There it is going to be March 10th. So I think there's value for watching it tomorrow, so that's because it's fresh in my mind. But I think there'll also be value again to watching it on March 10th and saying, okay, this is what I did last time. What can I do differently next time that would make this a better stream? That's the next step I gotta get to in my process. We'll see. We will see. We will see. We will see what's the right thing to do. What are we doing here? So we're still cruising. We're down below 10,000 feet now. We're still going a little faster than I want to do, but again, I'm dropping elevation. Like, that's the key right now, making sure we get down low enough. We always can slow the speed down more. But this is a good rate of descent. I just realized I don't know which way the runway is. I can't zoom in and see which way the runway is lined up. We're still swinging out wide because I'm hoping that based upon what I'm seeing, the direction of the... Again, I'm using this right now. Oh, there it is. Okay. So there it is. So if I swing around, which is what I'm trying to do now, right? I'm trying to swing around so that I can come in through this water, right? Like I'm going to use the water as my like fake runway to know where I'm going beforehand. I think that's the right approach. Let's get back to that. Right, like once I cross this water here and I can come up against that, that's when I want to turn and start going right at the thing. This is gorgeous weather, by the way. This is your chance to bet everyone, will I be able to stick the landing or will I crash and burn like I always do? We're down to about 6,800 feet above the air right now. We're doing fine. This game is a gorgeous game. It's a game that I debate, would I have more fun if I had it in virtual reality or not? I don't know the answer to that. Because I'm debating, like, do I want to go with virtual reality headset? I'm debating that. I also am debating if I should get, like, foot pedals. Or do I buy more Lego sets? I don't know. Alright. I think I need to go even lower. So we're gonna descend a lot. I cut my engine down to like half. I don't think I'm going. I don't think I'm dropping far enough. Going through some clouds now. I'd like to get down to about 1,000 feet in elevation before I make my turn. That would be ideal. I'm doing all right. I'm slowing down and I'm pulling. So what I'll do is I'll have to pull up. All right, here we go. Like that altitude is flying downwards. The speed is still maintaining about 200, only because I'm dropping so fast. Alright, let's turn in. frozen on me. Okay, stop freezing. Alright, let's pull up a little bit. I feel really good about my angle right now. We put down putting down our landing gear. This is the tricky part. Will I be able to land? I feel good. If you've been watching up until this point and you're like, should I turn away in the next 5 minutes? No. This is the part that you've been waiting for this whole time. We'll cross, stick the landing.
500.
I've been live for just over 2 hours, and this is about to get to the exciting part. Uh-oh.
Stall.
I'm trying to reduce airspeed.
Stall. 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 Stall.
I've already put down landing gear. Now we're getting close. Not lined up very well right now. Here we go. Alright, I've killed all power.
Stall.
Come on, brake, 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 brake. I don't know how to brake. I don't know how to brake. I don't know how to brake. There. Alright, so on the positive side, we appear to be on a runway. The plane has stopped. Let's look. Let's turn up the weather. Let's get a little earlier. Let's see. Am I... I'm on an airline. I'm on a runway, y'all. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. You've been here for history. Aircraft has successfully landed. We're even gonna taxi. That's how much trash we're talking right now. We're gonna taxi. We're taxiing, y'all. Gonna drive. I feel like I want to just drive around town. Maybe I should apply Forza with this excellent driving skills I'm just doing right now. This is an excessive taxi speed. Get out of here. This is perfect taxiing speed. About to do some donuts on this airline, on this tarmac. Uh-oh, game's frozen on me again. Okay, there it goes. I don't really know where I'm supposed to park my plane. Like, do I just drive it in like a hangar or something? Like, is this, like, I don't know where I'm supposed to go now. I've never gotten this far in the game. I'm looking for what looks like an airport. Should I just drive to the Anglican Cathedral? I mean, I feel like... Right? Like, there isn't really an airport here. Alright, fuck it, we'll just... In true craw fashion, we're gonna crash. There it goes, that's good. Now let's get into here, let's get into the plane. Cockpit. I need to go. Let's go to the checklist. I've done that. I don't know what I'm supposed to do to turn it off. Alright, what is this? This is the parking brake. Parking brake is set. I feel like there's a button I can use. Landing gear. Logo lights. Recognition lights. Pitch trim. Volume. Okay. Again, I'm looking for something that I can use to turn off. Rudder trim, flaps, lever, fuel. The most exciting part. first. I don't know what else I'm supposed to do to turn this off. I mean, things aren't working. I put on a parking brake. Like, there's no, like, key that I use to turn this off with. I feel like... No. There's nothing up here. Okay. There's our lightings. How do I turn it off? Wipers, floodlight. Oh no. Again, I don't see what I'm supposed to have. The parking brake is on. Like, you would think there would just be a button that says, like, off. Dun dun. Like, I would pay like $100 right now to have like a button that I could just press that would end this. Well, we're just gonna do that because I know that that does it. There it goes. I hope that was fun for you guys. Let us find someone to raid. Let's go to, where's my raid scene? Outgoing. Sources. Window capture. Settings. Let's actually get the channel that I would have that on. If you know someone that you feel like I should raid, feel free to drop their name in chat. That did not work. There. Boom. Shaka laka. Yeah, if you know someone that you feel like I should meet them, feel free to drop the name in the chat. I'm going to look to see who I have, and we'll go from there. Everyone is judging Lenza. Like, that's the thing of today. I don't know if I want to judge Lenza, though. Oh, my cousin's on. He's a potential, because I haven't rated him in a while. Yeah, let's go raid him. Because no one has given me any other ideas in chat. Let's do a shout out for my cousin, Brandocious.
I want to get on the gate. Trick shots, what's going on, dude? Don't die.
All right. So he's my cousin. Family friendly, here to spread positivity while he streams art or games. Always fun, keep it brandocious. He's a good dude. Wow, he's up to 1.2 thousand followers already. He's good at networking. And so is his wife. They're both wonderful human beings. Yeah, let's go check him out. Let's drop the raid. Let's have a fun time. I don't have a specific raid message. All I ask is that you spread the aloha spirit. Yeah, let's go raid him. Mahalo for being here. We will be back on Sunday night with some Assassin's Creed. It'll be the first night for us to be doing some Assassin's Creed of the new game that we haven't played yet. So, yeah. Let's raid my cousin. He's a good dude.
Wait, hold on. In game.
Hello. Come inside and have a nice cup of tea.
Aloha, Kra. How are you, buddy? If you guys don't know, Aloha Kra is my real life cousin. What's up, dude? How you doing, man? Let's go. I had you tabbed up too. That's so great. How was Flight Simulator, man? Guys, if you're not
Wordy 780
following,
underscore.
I haven't hung out with Mr. Aloha Kra in a while, but if you guys want to drop a follow, oh, this works now. That didn't work before. They fixed the fans, guys. That's good. Can we do slide kick with the fans now? All right, so this is going to be a lot better for the stuff. All right, we're going to back out to hub. What's up, cuz? Yeah, drop a follow for Aloha Kra. He's got an amazing personality. He builds Legos, plays Flight Simulator, amongst other Lego games. Super chill, great to hang out. All around, fantastic time. Flight Sim, did you crash? So I would be that guy that's like, all right, this is getting like, I don't know if I could handle Flight Simulator. I just like take it like a big plane and see like, can I like go down and then
TTV kill 3 hotted.
and I die or something like that. Any cousin of Brando's worth following. That's right, Deb. Thanks, man, for the support forever. Aloha Kra. So, guys, Aloha Kra. I don't know if you want me to use your real name or not, but I'm just gonna keep calling you that. So, Mr. Aloha over here. When I first jumped into streaming, he found out, and I was just doing painting. And I think the first time I ever played games live was an Among Us collab with him and some other friends. And I didn't know how to play Among Us. And I'm like pressing buttons and everyone's like, dude, that's sus. I'm like, I've never played this game before. I didn't know you can report dead bodies. So I always went back to the middle and pressed the button and everyone kicked me out because that was suspicious. You actually